The review, as you are about to see, is the account of the tragedy which befell a group of action figures. It is all the more tragic in that they were plastic, but had they sat on the shelves a very, very long time, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and the macabre as they would see that day. For them, an idyllic review would soon become a nightmare. The events of that review were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of internet history. Outside the Box Reviews, Texas Chainsaw Week.
Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are taking a look at the NECA Cult Classics Hall of Fame Wave 2 Mankind figure. Leatherface figure from Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. And as I started prepping for this Leatherface week of reviews, I had to go pick up this figure from my least favorite Texas Chainsaw movie. I did go for the cheaper option of the single card release of this figure. There was a box set that came with extra accessories and a victim on a table. That actually would have been kind of cool, but that version of the figure goes for way more money than I would ever want to spend on it now. So I ended up just making my own prop and going with that instead. But this version of Leatherface does come with some cool accessories, and is one of the few Leatherfaces from NECA I have in my collection at this moment. So it'll be interesting to see their take on it after a bunch of Mezco figures. As is pretty standard in the Cult Classics line from NECA, this figure comes with a display base. You can see it's kind of the dirt road. We can see some tire tracks on it. We got the footprints and the single peg for Leatherface. He doesn't stand particularly well on it. I have a hard time making sure he's stable. Then in the back we have some kind of cat's tails and some grass. Decently sculpted. It's kind of an interesting little base. Kind of reminds me of the Bubba Hotep base as well. Of course, nothing on the bottom here. Leatherface does come with a lot of different weapons and tools of murder. So he has a cleaver here. Once again, another cleaver for a Leatherface. It's a nice silver paint job to it. We got the hole up there at the top and the rivets on the handle. Got his hammer. This one a little more simplistic than we've seen before. Just kind of a cylinder head to it. And we have the wooden handle going through the middle. We have this meat hook, which I absolutely love. It just looks so brutal. It's a nice kind of J-shaped blade here with a nice rusty color to it. And I think this is a really nice added accessory just because of the idea of how brutal it would be to use this on a person. And of course, we have the chainsaw. This is probably one of the smaller chainsaws we've ever gotten with a Leatherface figure, but it looks nice. A nice black body to it with some silver add-on parts here. The handle's looking very rough. Kind of these orangey details or rusty details throughout, giving it that kind of aged appearance. And then a nice bloody blade, despite it being pretty small. And then we do have all the teeth. They are offset, making it look pretty nice. As I mentioned at the beginning of the review, he kind of reminds me of the wrestler Mankind with this leather mask that he started the movie in. And because inevitably anytime I mention wrestling, somebody asks me a bunch of wrestling questions, I have no freaking clue. I just know that the dude who hosted the American version of Robot Wars was a wrestler that looked like this at times. But the face sculpt is really nice. They captured some of the skin issues he has. There's some pimples all over his head or scarring or whatever that is. He's got some dark red around his eyes. The leather mask looks really cool, just having a really nice texture to it. The blacks and browns all mixed in with the stitches. His mouth's open at kind of an awkward angle. You can see some of his messed up teeth in there. And then we have all the hair, the strands coming down that are rubberized in front of things. The hard sculpted ones up here, which aren't painted so well. There's a lot of flesh tone on them. Then we come around the back and we just have the long mane of hair with some good brown shading brought into the mix to make it look different. We even have the buckle on the top of his kind of leather contraption here, which works really well. Looks really good. But that head is removable, and we could switch it out for the face of that kid that he kills and turns into his first leather mask. See, it's very hastily stitched. It's all over the place. Kind of looks like a drag queen if it wasn't for the mustache on there. And it's kind of odd because the facial hair really blends in with the stitches, so it's kind of hard to tell what's what. But it's very bloody. They gave a good sunken look to his eyes. The mouth is recessed in there. The ear's kind of off at a weird angle. You can see up at the top here we have the actual character's hair that's part of the mask, and then his long hair coming out underneath. I kind of wish I would have painted him a little different color to really highlight where the separation was, but you can also see kind of some tie or something around the back that's, I guess, holding the mask on. And there is a good textural change. The hair is very curly at the top and then straighter and stringier at the bottom, but still just kind of odd that it's a little hard to tell where the line is between the two. For the body of this figure, it's very, very similar to the Texas Chainsaw remake figure we got from Mezco as far as the detail here. We have the blue striped collared shirt. We have his tie underneath with some brighter blues and blacks on it. The straps of the apron are hard sculpted on. This whole top part of the apron is actually part of the upper torso. We have some cracks and rips in the leather leather, which look really good. A lot of blood splatter all over. The one strap kind of hanging down at an odd angle. Spin them around to the back. We get some more stitching and creases on the shirt, which are nice, but it's a little too clean here in the back for Leatherface, I think. The character's left arm, we can see some dirty part of the sleeve. It's rolled up here to the elbow. Got his arm, which looks really great. A lot of great paint detail with the blood, and we got the veins and the dirt all over it. And this hand is kind of opened in this grabbing pose with bloody fingers, which I think looks really nice. The right arm, similar sculpt to the sleeve. He's bent at the forearm and hard sculpted that way. And then we have his hand coming up to hold whatever accessory you want to include with some nice blood as well. But this arm will pop off. You can pop on a different arm where the elbow is less bent, and this pose can be used basically in lieu of elbow articulation to move his hand in a different position. From the waist down, the apron is a rubberized plastic, so we have the tie in the middle, little pockets on it, some more blood and wrinkles. There really isn't too much of a difference between the sculpt and paint and the top and bottom, which I'm thankful for. You can see it come around to the back and kind of connect. Have his pants with the pockets underneath, just brown pants with some black shading, then his big chunky boots with a nice brown dirty wash over top of them. For articulation, Leatherface has a ball joint at the neck, so it'll look okay up. It's limited by the hair. You'll look down, turn his head side to side, once again a little hindered by the hair. You also tilt. The shoulders, on both sides we have a ball joint in the shoulder, so we'll go in and out, forward and back. Really not as hindered as I would think it would be, being just a ball joint instead of a pin and socket joint, so kudos to NECA on that. Even though the sculpt does get a little wonky, because it really becomes that ball shape up here at the shoulder. As I mentioned before, no elbow articulation. You could use that alternate arm in lieu of that, but on all three arms he does have rotation here at the forearm where it comes out of the shirt. We have a cut joint rotation at the waist, nothing in the legs until we get to the feet, which are on cut joints. And here's the NECA, the beginning Leatherface, next to the Mezco remake Leatherface. You can see some similarities in the detailings on the shirt and a little bit in the apron, but these are two very different figures. Mezco's figure is definitely a lot bulkier than the NECA one, though there is some good heft to the NECA one as well. But overall, just the aesthetic of the two is very, very different, as was true between both companies. NECA definitely went for a more realistic look, Mezco a little more stylized, but with this Leatherface being one of the more realistic sculpts Mezco ever did, they don't look too different where it's going to be too big of a problem to put them side by side in a shelf, I think. This is one of those figures where I have a really hard time giving it a recommend or a not recommend. Not because it's a mixed bag and there's some great things on it and there's some poorly done things on it, but because I don't have much feeling about this figure either way. The detailing on it is pretty nice. Sculpt on it's pretty good. The articulation's lacking, which I would expect from this era of cinema fear figures. The fact that they gave us the interchangeable arm to simulate elbow articulation is kind of annoying and nice at the same time. I'm gonna come down slightly on the side of recommend, really weak recommend. There's nothing here that is special to me, but there's nothing here that's necessarily that bad either. So if you're a fan of the beginning Leatherface, or at least the look of the beginning Leatherface, you'll probably want to pick this one up. If you're like me and don't really care too much for that movie or anything in it, you could probably pass on this figure pretty easily. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below. And until next time, this has been our Outside the Box Reviews, and Texas Chainsaw Week continues next.